7 signs that indicate you are chosen by God. There is a reason you are here. This message was meant for you. For a long time you have felt it, the sense that your life is different, that you were not created to walk the same path as everyone else. You have faced struggles, obstacles, and moments that have tested your faith. Yet deep down, you know that something greater is calling you. But what if I told you that these challenges were not random? What if the very things you thought were holding you back were actually shaping you for something far beyond what you can imagine? The Bible makes it clear. God chooses specific people for divine purposes. He does not pick at random. He sets apart those whom he calls, refining them like gold through fire. But how can you know if you are one of the chosen? There are unmistakable signs, clear indicators that God has placed his hand on your life. Once you recognize them, everything changes. You will no longer question your purpose, nor will you feel lost. Instead, you will walk with boldness, prosperity, and authority because you will finally understand what has been happening in your life. Today, we are going to uncover 7 powerful signs that indicate you are chosen by God. These are not just ideas. They are scriptural truths that have been present in the lives of every person God has called. From Abraham to Moses, from David to Paul, if these signs are present in your life, then you are not just another person on this earth, you are part of something much greater. Before we go deeper, I want you to do something important right now. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss out on life-changing revelations like this. You are here for a reason, and I promise that by the end of this video, you will see your life through a completely new lens. One filled with a deep sense of purpose that never fades. Now, I have one more important step for you. Write this in the comments. I believe that God has chosen me for something great. This is not just a comment, it is a declaration over your life. I will personally give a heart to every single comment. Declare it now. You have always known you were different. While others are content with a simple existence, you have never been able to settle for a life without meaning. There is something inside you that craves more than just surviving, more than just working for money, more than just existing. It's as if your heart is restless, constantly searching for something deeper. That is because you were created for more. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This means your calling was placed on you before you even took your first breath. Your purpose was assigned long before the world even knew your name. But here's the truth. Those who are chosen often struggle the most. Why? Because God refines those whom he calls. Look at the life of Joseph. He had dreams of greatness, yet he was betrayed, sold into slavery, and imprisoned. To an outsider, it looked like everything was falling apart. But in reality, God was positioning him for a greater destiny. The same thing is happening in your life. The setbacks, the betrayals, the moments of uncertainty, they are not signs of failure. They are signs that God is preparing you. He is molding you so that when the time comes, you will be ready. You do not fit in with the world's way of thinking. Have you ever wondered why you don't fit in with the world's way of thinking? Why the pursuit of riches and luxury alone does not satisfy you? It is because your spirit knows there is more. You were not called to live an ordinary life. You were chosen to impact lives, influence others, and carry God's presence into the world. But here's the challenge. Many people ignore this calling. They drown out their purpose with distractions. They chase after money, success, and comfort, thinking these things will fill the void. But the truth is, only God's purpose will satisfy your soul. And this is where the first sign becomes clear. If you have felt this deep sense of calling, this unshakable hunger for something greater, know that it is not random. It is the voice of God pulling you toward your destiny. The question is, will you listen? You face intense spiritual battles. There is something you need to understand. When God chooses someone, the enemy takes notice. The moment you step into your divine calling, resistance comes. Attacks come. But these battles are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to prepare you. Betrayals and sudden misfortunes, signs that you are chosen by God. Betrayals, sudden misfortunes. These are not coincidences. They are evidence that you are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Look at the story of Joseph. God gave him dreams of greatness, prosperity, and ruling over nations. But what happened next? His own brothers turned against him. He was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and falsely accused. It seemed like everything was falling apart, but in reality, God was positioning him for his destiny. This is what many chosen people go through. The enemy tries to stop you before you step into your purpose. The attacks come from unexpected places, sometimes even from family, close friends, or trusted people. You might face rejection, be misunderstood, or experience situations where everything seems to work against you. But here is the truth. If you were not called for something great, you would not be a target. The reason you face spiritual battles is because the enemy sees what you will become if you continue to walk with God. The enemy attacks those who are chosen. Look at Job. He was a man of great wealth, riches, and luxury. He had everything, a family, prosperity, and honor. But then he lost it all. The enemy attacked everything he had. Why? Because Job was a man chosen by God. And in the end, what happened? God restored him, giving him double what he had lost. The enemy does not attack people who are not a threat. The very fact that you have faced hardship, pain, and trials is a sign that God's hand is on you. It means your purpose is so powerful that the enemy is trying to stop you before you even step into it. Think about your own life. Have you faced betrayal from people you trusted? Have you walked through financial struggles while trying to do the right thing? Have you experienced seasons of loss, uncertainty, or isolation? If so, do not see it as a curse. See it as confirmation. Your battles are preparing you for something greater. Here is what the enemy does not want you to know. Every battle you have faced is actually preparing you for something greater. Every attack is shaping you. Every hardship is strengthening you. Every struggle is molding you into the person God has called you to be. The key is this: do not give up. Do not let hardship make you question your purpose. Instead, let it confirm that you are chosen. And as you begin to see the truth behind your battles, something powerful happens. Your perspective shifts. You stop seeing challenges as obstacles and start seeing them as training for your destiny. Because the reality is, every great person God has ever chosen has faced intense spiritual battles. And if you are facing them now, it is because something incredible is on the other side. You are drawn to righteousness, even when it's difficult. There is something inside you that won't let you walk away from God. Even when you stumble, even when temptation surrounds you, even when you try to ignore it, there is a deep conviction that pulls you back to Him. That is not normal. That is a sign that God has chosen you. The world tells you to chase after money, luxury, and success without considering the cost. It tells you to live however you please, that nothing really matters. But something in you rejects that mindset. You feel the weight of your actions. You cannot be comfortable in sin. That is God's hand on your life. David, a chosen man who made mistakes. Look at David. He was anointed to be king, yet he made terrible mistakes. He committed adultery. He orchestrated a murder. And yet he was still called a man after God's own heart. Acts 13:22. Why? Because when he fell, he always came back to God. His spirit could not bear to be separated from Him. That is the difference between someone who is merely religious and someone who is chosen. Many people sin and feel nothing, but when you sin, you feel disconnected. You might try to ignore it, but something inside of you keeps pulling you back. That is because God does not let go of those he has chosen. You cannot fit in with the world. You've seen this in your own life. The times you tried to follow the crowd, the times you tried to blend in, the times you tried to live like everyone else. Yet something always pulled you back. You cannot enjoy what others enjoy without feeling empty. The money, the luxuries, the success. It might feel good for a moment, but it never truly satisfies. That is because your soul was created for more. When God chooses someone, he places his spirit inside them. That is why you feel conviction when others do not. That is why you feel uncomfortable in sin. You were chosen for something greater. You do not belong to the world. You belong to God. There are places that others celebrate, but for some reason you feel out of place. That is because you do not belong to the world. You belong to God. This deep conviction is one of the clearest signs that you are chosen. It is evidence that God's love for you is so strong that he will not allow you to destroy yourself. He will keep calling you back, pulling you toward righteousness. But understand this, conviction is not condemnation. When God convicts you, it is not to shame you, it is to guide you back to him. When David sinned, God did not reject him. He restored him. When Peter denied Jesus, he was not abandoned. He was redeemed and called again. The enemy wants you to believe that your mistakes disqualify you, but in reality, your conviction is proof that you are still called. Because those who are not chosen feel no pull toward God. But you cannot walk away. You may drift, but you will always be drawn back. That is how you know you belong to him. If this resonates with you, hit the like button, not just as an action, but as a declaration that you recognize God's hand on your life. You experience supernatural provision. There have been moments in your life where you should have failed, where you should have lost everything, but somehow God made a way. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine provision. And it is one of the most undeniable signs that you are chosen. When God calls someone, he provides for them. This does not mean life will always be easy. It does not mean money will fall from the sky. It means that even in the worst situations, God ensures that you have exactly what you need to keep moving forward. Look at Elijah in 1 Kings 17. There was famine in the land, no food, no water. Yet God sent ravens to feed him. When the brook dried up, God sent him to a widow, a woman who had only a handful of flour and oil left. She thought she would die, but her supply never ran out. That is how God works in the lives of those he chooses. When it looks like there is no way, he creates one. Think about your own life. Have you ever been in a situation where you had no money, no resources, no plan, and yet somehow you made it through? Maybe you lost a job, but then an unexpected opportunity came. Maybe your finances were tight, but suddenly the right amount appeared at the perfect time. Maybe you faced an impossible situation, yet doors opened in ways you could never explain. That is not luck. That is God's supernatural provision. But God's provision is not just about money. It is about direction, protection, and opportunities. Many times he blocks the wrong paths so that you end up where you are supposed to be. He removes toxic people from your life. He closes doors that you begged him to open, only for you to later realize that he was protecting you from something destructive. Look at Joseph. He was sold into slavery. That looked like loss, but in reality, it positioned him for the palace. He was thrown into prison, another loss, but that loss placed him in the perfect position to be elevated to second in command over Egypt. Every loss was actually God's provision in disguise. That is how God works. Sometimes His provision does not look like a blessing at first. It might look like rejection, hardship, or failure. But if you look back over your life, you will see that every time something went wrong, it eventually led to something better. God's provision is a sign that you are chosen. He does not abandon those He calls. He may allow seasons of testing, but He always makes a way. And those who trust Him, even in uncertainty, always come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and more blessed than before. You may not always see it in the moment, but every step of your journey has been guided by the hand of God. You carry the weight of others' burdens. There is something different about you. While others go about their lives focused only on their own success, their own comfort, their own money, riches, and luxury, you feel something deeper. You feel the weight of the world. The pain of others affects you deeply. When you see injustice, suffering, or people struggling, you cannot just look away. This is not just a personality trait. This is a divine sign. Look at Nehemiah. He was living in comfort, serving in the palace of the king. He had access to wealth, influence, and privilege. Yet when he heard that the walls of Jerusalem were broken down, he could not ignore it. That is how you know you are called, because when God chooses someone, He gives them a heart that cares. He places a burden on them, not to break them, but to guide them toward their purpose. If you have ever wondered why you feel things so deeply, why the struggles of others weigh heavily on your heart, this is why. It is because God has set you apart for something greater. The burden of the chosen. Understanding your calling, he wept. Nehemiah 1:4 says, "When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven." Why would a man who had everything feel so deeply about something that did not directly affect him? Because he was chosen, and those who are chosen carry God's burden for the world. You have probably experienced this in your own life. You feel the urge to help when no one else does. You see beyond the surface. You recognize spiritual battles, hidden pain, and opportunities to make a difference when others just walk by. Maybe you have given to someone in need, even when you did not have much for yourself. Maybe you have stayed up praying for people who never even knew you were interceding for them. Maybe you have felt a calling to serve, lead, or fight for something bigger than yourself, even when it made no logical sense. That is the sign of someone who carries God's heart. Moses felt this burden. 2 Moses lived in the luxury of Pharaoh's palace, yet he could not ignore the suffering of his people. He tried to blend in, to live an easy life, but his burden would not let him stay comfortable. Eventually, God called him to lead millions out of slavery. When you are chosen, your spirit cannot be at peace while others are suffering. You understand that. Money alone does not solve everything. Success is not just about what you gain, but about what you give. This burden is not always easy. There will be times when you wonder why you feel so much while others seem not to care. There will be moments when you question why God allows you to see things so clearly while others remain blind. But understand this, your burden is proof of your calling. God does not place this weight on just anyone. He gives it to those He trusts. He gives it to those He has chosen. And if you feel it, then you are part of something far bigger than you realize. God separates you from certain people. Have you ever wondered why some people walked away from your life? Why certain friendships, relationships, or even opportunities suddenly ended, even when you didn't expect them to? Why people you thought would always be there drifted away or betrayed you? It may have felt like rejection, but in reality, it was God's protection. When you are chosen, God will separate you from the wrong people, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Look at Moses. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by wealth, luxury, and power. Yet when God was ready to use him, he pulled Moses away from that life. Moses had to leave behind his status, his connections, and everything familiar before he could step into his calling. This is how God works. If you are chosen, you cannot stay connected to people who are not part of your purpose. It does not matter how much history you have with them, how much you care about them, how much you wanted them to stay. If they are not aligned with what God is doing in your life, they will be removed. Separation often feels like pain before it feels like purpose. Sometimes this separation happens in painful ways. Betrayals, misunderstandings, sudden distance. Other times it happens slowly, as your interests, values, and spiritual growth start pulling you in different directions. You may have noticed that certain friendships that once felt strong now feel empty. You might have lost relationships that you thought would last forever. You might have struggled with loneliness, wondering why God allows people to leave. But understand this: every person who left was not meant to go where God is taking you. Look at Joseph. Joseph's own brothers betrayed him. The very people who should have supported him were the ones who threw him into a pit. But what they meant for evil, God used for good. Because without that betrayal, Joseph would have never ended up in Pharaoh's palace, ruling over Egypt. Some people are not meant to be part of your next season. Some people are not equipped to handle your calling. Some people are not meant to be part of your next season. And keeping them in your life would only slow you down, distract you, pull you away from your destiny. You may not understand it now, but one day you will thank God for every door he closed. Because every time God removes someone from your life, he is making room for something greater. If this message spoke to you, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Right now, there is someone struggling with losing people, someone who needs to know. It was not rejection, it was protection. It was not abandonment, it was alignment. It was not just pain, it was preparation. If you believe God is guiding your life, leave a comment below. I trust God's plan for my life. Because those who are chosen walk by faith, even when they do not understand. And you are chosen. You are not rejected, you are being redirected. What you thought was rejection was actually divine direction. You have been attacked, but you have never been defeated. There are things you have been through that should have destroyed you. Moments when you thought you wouldn't make it. Times when the pressure was too much. Seasons when the loss was unbearable and the betrayal too deep. Yet you are still standing, and that is not by accident. The enemy has tried everything to stop you. He has attacked your mind. He has attacked your finances. He has attacked your relationships and your peace. He has used people, circumstances, and even your own thoughts against you. But through it all, God never let you be defeated. You are pressed, but not crushed. Look at Paul in 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. He says, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." This is the life of someone chosen by God. The attacks come, but they do not win. The storms rage, but they do not break you. And the reason is simple: you are not fighting alone. Look at Job. He lost everything: his family, his wealth, his health. The enemy tried to take everything from him. But in the end, God restored him and gave him double of what he lost. That is what happens when you are chosen. The battle is real, but so is God's protection over your life. You have been through the fire, yet you are still here. You have faced battles that others did not survive, yet you are still standing. Why? Because God's hand is on your life, and no attack of the enemy can change what he has planned for you. This is the final and greatest sign that you are chosen. You have been attacked, but you have never been defeated. And if you are still here, that means God is not finished with you yet. If you recognize this truth in your own life, If you know that God has carried you through battles that should have destroyed you, then get ready, because what's ahead is greater than what's behind. Now that you know, what will you do? Now that you recognize the signs, the question is, what will you do with them? You cannot ignore what you have just learned. You are not here by accident. God has been calling you. He has been refining you. He has been separating you and protecting you, because you are set apart, because you are chosen. But being chosen is not just about knowing, it's about acting. Will you step into your purpose, or will you let fear hold you back? Will you embrace God's calling, or will you continue to question it? The time for hesitation is over. The battles you have faced were not just to make you stronger, they were to prepare you for what comes next. So, what is your next step? Will you commit to seeking God deeper? Will you surrender your plans, your worries and your desires, trusting that His plan is greater than anything you could ever imagine? Because the truth is this: you were never meant to live an ordinary life. You were chosen for something greater, and now it's time to step into it. If this message spoke to your heart, subscribe so you never miss another life-changing revelation. Like this video if you are ready to walk in your calling. Watch the video on the screen right now. It will take you even deeper into your divine purpose. Your journey is just beginning, and God has so much more for you.